I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, so hard my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the restaurant entrance. There she was, my wife, laughing, leaning in just a little too close to him. The way her fingers grazed his arm, the way she smiled, that wasn't how you act with just a friend. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry as sandpaper. My mind raced, searching for some logical explanation. But deep down I knew. This wasn't a business meeting. This wasn't innocent. Then, as if the universe wanted to shatter any last shred of doubt, she reached across the table and held his hand. Held it. Her wedding ring, the one I put on her finger, gleamed under the dim restaurant lights, a cruel reminder of the lie I was living. And in that moment everything changed. From the outside looking in, my marriage to Lisa was perfect. We were the couple everyone admired, the ones who always held hands at dinner parties, who laughed at each other's jokes even when they weren't funny. High school sweethearts turned life partners. We had been together for over a decade, weathering the storms of adulthood side by side. I was the dependable one, the guy who fixed things around the house, planned thoughtful anniversaries, and never forgot her coffee order. Oat milk, 2 pumps of vanilla, extra foam. Lisa, on the other hand, was the free spirit. She had this contagious energy, the kind that lit up a room the moment she walked in. People gravitated toward her, and I never blamed them. She was magnetic, charming, effortlessly beautiful. Our life was comfortable. We had a cozy home in the suburbs, good jobs, me in IT, her in marketing. We didn't have kids yet, but we talked about it. Or at least I did. Lisa always found a way to change the subject when the conversation got serious. Looking back, there were little things, tiny cracks in the foundation of our so-called perfect marriage. The way her phone was always face down. The way she suddenly got more interested in the gym, working out late into the evening when she never cared for it before. The way she'd get distant sometimes, lost in thought when she thought I wasn't looking. But I ignore it. Because when she smiled at me, when she curled up next to me on the couch after a long day, it felt like we were unbreakable. Like we were still those 2 kids who promised forever in front of our friends and family. Then, about 6 months ago, Lisa's job started demanding more of her time. Late nights at the office, business trips that seemed more frequent than before. At first, I didn't question it. I knew how dedicated she was to her work. But then I noticed the changes, subtle but undeniable. She started dressing differently. More effort in her appearance, new lingerie that she didn't wear for me. She became guarded with her phone, carrying it with her everywhere, even into the bathroom. And the intimacy between us, fading, dying piece by piece. Still, I convinced myself that we were fine. That she was just stressed, that I was overthinking things. Until one night, when she looked me dead in the eyes and said something that sent a chill down my spine. Have you ever thought about an open marriage? At first, I thought she was joking. An open marriage? Lisa and I had always been monogamous. We had built our relationship on trust, loyalty, and the belief that love, real love, meant choosing each other every single day. So, when she asked that question, I laughed, assuming she was messing with me. But Lisa didn't laugh. Instead, she gave me this expectant look, like she was waiting for me to agree. Like this was a totally normal conversation for a married couple to have. Wait, you're serious? I asked, my stomach twisting into knots. She shrugged, swirling the wine in her glass. I mean, yeah, a lot of couples do it. It keeps things fresh. I stared at her, searching for something, anything, that would make this make sense. Lisa, where is this coming from? She took a slow sip before answering. I just think we should be open to new experiences. We've been together for so long. Don't you ever wonder what else is out there? Wonder what else is out there? No, because when you love someone, you don't need to go looking for something better. You don't need new experiences to keep things exciting. I felt sick. But instead of confronting her, instead of demanding answers, I froze. I nodded slowly and muttered something about being tired. I went to bed that night with my back turned to her, my mind racing with possibilities. And from that moment on, things started unraveling. The first real red flag came a few days later. Lisa started getting really into her phone. Before, she'd leave it lying around without a second thought. Now, it was practically glued to her hand. She'd tilt the screen away from me when she texted, laugh at messages she never shared, and excuse herself to another room just to take a call. One night, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it quickly before flipping it over. I wasn't trying to be paranoid, but something about the way she did it, so fast, so casual, sent a wave of unease through me. I tried to ignore it. But then it happened again. And again. So, I did something I had never done before. I waited until she went to take a shower, then I picked up her phone. Locked. Of course. Lisa had never had a lock screen before. My stomach dropped. Then there were the late nights. Lisa's job had always required occasional overtime, but suddenly, she was staying out later and later. She'd come home smelling like expensive perfume, her makeup still fresh despite claiming she had been working late. And when I asked her about it, ugh, you wouldn't believe how swamped I am right now. Client dinners. Boring stuff. You wouldn't want to be there. God, why are you acting so paranoid? She had an excuse for everything. But the thing that really got me? The way she had started pulling away from me. She used to kiss me when she walked through the door. Now I barely got a nod. She used to curl up next to me in bed. Now she turned away. She used to look at me like I was her whole world. Now she barely looked at me at all. One night, I decided to test her. She had told me she was working late, again, so I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I drove to her office. The parking lot was mostly empty, except for a few cars. Lisa's car wasn't one of them. I sat there for a while, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she had parked somewhere else, or maybe she had stepped out for a break. But deep down, I knew. I pulled out my phone and called her. It rang, and then, "Hey babe. Sorry, I'm stuck in meetings." "What's up?" My blood ran cold. Meetings? She was lying to me. I took a shaky breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Oh, nothing. Just wanted to hear your voice." "Ah, that's sweet. I'll be home late, okay? Love you." Love you. The words felt hollow, forced, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't say it back. Over the next few weeks, the lies kept piling up. Lisa had new clothes. Fancy ones. She started wearing lingerie again, but I never got to see it. She'd get random phone calls at night and step outside to take them, claiming it was just work. And the final straw. I caught a glimpse of a message on her phone. It was just one word. "Miss you." And it wasn't from me. The night everything fell apart, I wasn't even looking for the truth. I had spent weeks drowning in suspicion, trying to convince myself that I was wrong. That Lisa wouldn't do this to me. That she couldn't do this to me. But the truth has a way of revealing itself, whether you're ready for it or not. It started with her laptop. Lisa had left it on the kitchen counter, open but in sleep mode. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, but something gnawed at me. A deep, unshakable feeling in my gut that whispered, "Look." So I did. I tapped the trackpad, and the screen came to life. Her email was open. At first, I saw nothing unusual, just work emails, newsletters she never unsubscribed from, random spam. And then, near the top of her inbox, I saw a name I didn't recognize. Ryan Carter. No subject line. Just an email from someone I had never heard of. My fingers trembled as I clicked it, and then my world shattered. "Last night was incredible. I can still taste you. When can I see you again?" My breath caught in my throat. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I stared at the words, willing them to change, willing this to be some kind of misunderstanding. But then I saw the rest. A thread of messages stretching back months. Photos. Him. Her. Texts filled with inside jokes, private memories, words she used to say to me. And then the one that broke me completely. "I wish I had met you first." I slammed the laptop shut, my entire body shaking. This wasn't just a fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Lisa had chosen him. Over me. Over us. And the worst part? She had asked for an open marriage after she had already started cheating. I don't remember moving. 1 second I was staring at that laptop, my mind screaming, my heart breaking. And the next I was in my car, gripping the steering wheel, so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't even have to think about where I was going. My hands moved on their own, turning down familiar streets, my foot pressing harder on the gas pedal. 15 minutes later, I pulled up in front of a restaurant. Her favorite one. The one we used to go to for date nights. And there she was. Lisa. Sitting at a corner table. Laughing. Smiling. With him. I couldn't breathe. I had spent weeks feeling like I was losing my mind, questioning everything, hoping, praying, that I was wrong. But here was my answer. She wasn't working late. She wasn't in meetings. She was here. With him. And then she did it. She reached across the table and held his hand. That was it. That was all it took for something inside me to snap. I shoved open my car door and stormed toward them, my heart pounding, so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Lisa must have sensed me coming because she looked up, her smile fading the second she saw my face. Her eyes went wide. "Mark," she started, her voice a mix of shock and panic. But I didn't let her finish. "Who is he?" My voice was low, dangerously calm, but my whole body was vibrating with rage. Ryan, because of course it was him, shifted in his chair, tried to play it cool, but I saw the way his jaw tensed. Lisa swallowed hard. "Mark, I can explain." "Explain? Explain." I let out a cold, bitter laugh. "Explain what, Lisa? That you've been screwing this guy behind my back? That you had the nerve to ask for an open marriage while you were already cheating on me?" A few heads turned from nearby tables. "Good. Let them hear. Let them see who she really was." Lisa's face paled. "Mark, please, not here." "Why not?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "You didn't seem to care about privacy when you were sneaking around with him. So go ahead. Explain." Ryan finally decided to grow a spine. He leaned forward, his expression smug. "Look, man, I don't think this is the time or place." I turned to him slowly, my blood boiling. "Oh, you don't think so?" My voice dropped, dangerous and quiet. "You screw another man's wife and suddenly you care about timing." Lisa reached for my hand. "Mark, I yanked my arm away, like her touch burned. "Don't. You don't get to touch me." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. Not anymore. "How long?" My voice was raw, broken. Lisa hesitated. "Mark." "How long, Lisa?" She sucked in a shaky breath. And then finally, 6 months. 6 months. I stared at her, trying to reconcile this version of my wife with the woman I had loved for over a decade. The woman who had promised me forever. And in that moment, something inside me died. Lisa wiped at her eyes. "Mark, I never meant to hurt you." I let out a cold, hollow laugh. "Never meant to hurt me?" "You knew exactly what you were doing. Every lie, every excuse, every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while you were sleeping with him." Her lips trembled. "I was going to tell you. I held up a hand. "Don't. Just don't." She fell silent. I turned to Ryan, taking in his smug little smirk, his relaxed posture. Like this was just another night to him. Like none of this mattered. "You can have her," I said, my voice cold. Lisa's breath hitched. "Mark." I stepped back, my chest tight, my throat burning. "Hope it was worth it," I muttered, turning on my heel. And then, without looking back, I walked away. I don't remember driving home. One moment, I was storming out of that restaurant, my pulse hammering, my hands shaking. The next, I was standing in our living room, staring at the framed, wedding photos on the mantel. Lies. That's all they were now. Just frozen moments of a love that had died long before I even knew it. The door creaked open behind me. Lisa had followed me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. If I looked at her, if I saw those tear-filled eyes, I might shatter completely. "Mark." Her voice was soft, pleading. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. My body was a war zone, rage, heartbreak, disgust, all fighting for dominance. And then I turned. She stood in the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself like she was the victim here. Like she was the one whose world had just crumbled. "Say it," I said, my voice low, tight. Lisa frowned. "Say what?" "You know exactly what." I stepped closer, my hands clenched into fists. "Say it out loud, Lisa. Tell me what you did." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Mark, please." I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. "Oh, so now you don't want to talk? That's funny, because you sure as hell had a lot to say to him." She flinched. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." I felt my jaw tighten. "Then how was it supposed to be?" Lisa wiped at her face, taking a shaky breath. "I didn't plan for this to happen. I swear. Ryan was just a friend at first." I scoffed. "A friend?" I took another step toward her, the air thick with tension. "So tell me, Lisa, do all your friends send emails about how they can still taste you?" Her face crumpled. "I never wanted to hurt you." "You keep saying that." I snapped, my voice sharp, cutting. "But every time you lied to me, every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me, you were hurting me. So, excuse me if I don't give a damn about your guilt right now." Lisa covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. I was lost, Mark. I felt like we weren't us anymore. I let out a sharp breath. "We weren't us. Are you kidding me?" I gestured wildly. So, instead of talking to me, instead of working through whatever you were feeling, you just, what? Decided to screw another guy, and hope I'd be okay with it. Lisa's eyes were desperate, searching my face for something. Understanding, forgiveness, anything. I didn't know how to tell you I wasn't happy. My chest tightened. You weren't happy, I echoed, shaking my head. And instead of trying to fix things, you went behind my back. I thought, she hesitated, biting her lip. I thought maybe if we had an open marriage, it would help. That it would make things easier. A cold, bitter laugh escaped me. Oh, I get it now. You didn't want an open marriage for us. You wanted it for you. You wanted permission to keep screwing him without feeling guilty. Her silence was my answer. I ran a hand through my hair, my head pounding. God, Lisa. I loved you. I gave you everything. And the whole time, you were just, my voice cracked. I swallowed hard, forcing down the lump in my throat. She stepped closer, her hands trembling. I still love you, Mark. I stared at her, searching for any trace of the woman I had married. But all I saw was a stranger. No, I said, my voice quiet but firm. You don't. Her lip quivered. I do. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Lisa opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. You know what the worst part is? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. It's not even that you cheated. It's that you let me think I was crazy for suspecting it. That you looked me in the eye, night after night, and lied. That you let me feel like I wasn't enough. Tears streamed down her face, but I felt nothing. Not pity, not sympathy. Just emptiness. I took a shaky breath. I want a divorce. Lisa's eyes widened in panic. No. No, Mark, please. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I said, my voice hollow. You already broke it. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I was done. Done fighting for someone who had stopped fighting for me a long time ago. Lisa was still crying when I walked upstairs. I didn't care. I grabbed a suitcase from a closet and started throwing my clothes into it. Every shirt, every pair of jeans, it all went in without a second thought. Behind me, Lisa's footsteps echoed against the hardwood floor. Mark, please, she sobbed, standing in the doorway. Don't do this. We can fix this. We can. I didn't even look at her. No, Lisa. You broke this. And I'm done cleaning up your mess. She let out a choked sob, but I kept moving. I grabbed my toothbrush, my razor, my cologne, the one she used to love, the one she used to bury her face into when she hugged me. It all went into the bag. Where will you go? She whispered. I zipped up the suitcase and finally met her eyes. It was funny. Just weeks ago, I would have seen her crying and done anything to fix it. But now, I felt nothing. I pulled in a deep breath. Anywhere but here. Her face crumbled, and she reached for me. Mark. I stepped back. Don't. Lisa's hands dropped to her sides, her shoulders shaking. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. I stared at her, my chest tight. You didn't mean for it. I repeated, my voice sharp. Lisa, you didn't just trip and fall into another man's bed. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And you made it every single day for 6 months. Tears streamed down her face. I was scared of losing you. I let out a cold, bitter laugh. You already lost me. I grabbed my suitcase and walked past her, my body moving on autopilot. But then I stopped. Because no, she didn't get to walk away from this unscathed. She didn't get to cry her pretty little tears and play the victim. I turned back around, pulling my phone out of my pocket. Lisa frowned, her breath hitching. What are you doing? I pulled up my email and scrolled until I found it. Ryan Carter, the man who had destroyed my marriage. The man who had smirked in my face, so sure of himself, so sure he had won. I selected the entire email thread. All the messages, the photos, the secrets. And then, with a single tap, I forwarded everything to Lisa's parents. Her face drained of color. Mark, no. I hit send. The email whooshed away. I smiled. Too late. Lisa lunged for me, grabbing at my arm, her nails digging into my skin. You can't do this, she shrieked, pure panic in her eyes. My parents, they'll never forgive me. I shrugged, yanking my arm free. Guess you should have thought about that before you started screwing around, huh? Her breaths came in short, frantic gasps. Mark, please. I'll do anything. Just take it back, okay? We don't have to do this. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Then I smiled. Nah. And with that, I walked out the door. I didn't look back. Lisa's sobs followed me down the hall, her desperate pleas echoing in my ears. But I kept walking. I was done. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free.